Hi, family. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Gold Corner. Thank you all so much for your continued love and support. Thank you for everybody that purchased your t-shirts and for the Gold Corner. And all of this is going to go back to all these little warriors that are currently fighting right now. We're going to be creating warrior packs and be sending them out to them and just bring a smile to their face. For those that don't know me, my name is Joel Ojeda. I'm also known as the Bearded Ref, and I'm the creator and founder of the nonprofit organization, The Gold Corner, along with the YouTube channel that you're watching right now. If you still haven't done so, just click on the little gold ribbon here in the corner, and that'll subscribe you to the channel. You can listen to all the stories that have been featured throughout the last couple of months. This is who we are. We are a broken family. This is the Gold Corner. Let's do this.
And now it's time for the main event. This is the moment you have all been waiting for. In memory of Mia Ojeda. Dedicated to all the brave little warriors that have fought and the ones that are currently fighting childhood cancer. For the thousands watching around the world, fighting out of the Gold Corner, it's time!
This week we have an amazing guest. I had the opportunity to meet Casey. Casey Langley is from Winterville, North Carolina, and I actually met her through a mutual friend of ours from Tyler Walker, who is the creator of Golden Voices podcast, a podcast that I have been a part of, and a podcast that Casey will be on also in the next couple of weeks. And we met through here, and I had the opportunity to talk to Casey already on several occasions, and she's going to be sharing her Warrior Ahmad story with us today. Casey is also an author of a book called Heaven Needed a Hero. She's going to go a little bit more in depth about the book and about Ahmad's story here. So, Casey, I just wanted to welcome you to the Gold Corner. We've had some great conversations, and all the things that we have talked about. About the lack of research for childhood cancer, and all these big name organizations, and just to kind of bring up to people up to date, and just so they can make their own research and homework before they donate. So family, without further ado, from Winterville, North Carolina, I would like to introduce to you Casey, welcome to the Gold Corner, and the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I am honored to be on the Gold Corner. I'm touched that, my story have touched so many lives, and I'm getting all kinds of feedback from my story, and, people hitting me and reaching out to me to want to know more about what my family went through and what my son went through. So, yes, I'm very honored. Before I could look back and I can honestly say that I came a long way, because there were times where I could not talk about it without crying. And, I just thank God for strength to be able to be my son's voice. Um, my son name was Ahmad Cobb, and he is the oldest boy. I have four kids. I have an 18-year-old daughter named Alea. Ahmad would have been 13 this year. He have two younger brothers, Tyler and Ashton, and they are 12 and 10. Um, Again, I said Ahmad was the oldest boy. I had Ahmad on June the 1st, 2008. And he was a very big baby. He came in weighing about 8 pounds, 12 ounces or so. He gave me so many complications during labor, but when he came in with those chinky eyes and that curly hair, I fell in love with him. Um, my son was a very healthy child. He really didn't have any health issues, none. He was not a bad baby. He wasn't a cranky baby or anything. Um, he wasn't, yeah, like I said, he didn't have any health issues. We went to the around about 7 months old. Ahmad had a very allergic reaction to some Bojangles that we were eating one night. And we took him to the doctor, and he had to get an allergy test done. And it came back that he was allergic to beef, pork, and fish. And it was like, whoa, what am I gonna feed my child? Because he was allergic to all the meats. But yeah, other than that, he had no health issues. Maybe about 8 months, he started having earaches. He started having really bad earaches, and the doctor had talked to his dad and I about putting in tubes. But by the grace of God, we did not have to go through with that procedure. So other than that, he was a very healthy child. He just loved to play. He loved to play with his siblings. He took being a big brother with pride. He honored that. He was very bossy to his younger siblings. And yeah, he was just a normal child that had his whole life to live. And unfortunately, in 2015, all of that changed. Um, I'm gonna go back probably about 2 weeks prior to Ahmad passing out at school and me getting a phone call that he passed out of school. 2 weeks prior, Ahmad would come to his dad and I and tell us that he were experiencing headaches. He was having headaches. Honestly, I never heard a child really complain about headaches like that. So, we treated it normally. Tylenol, ibuprofen, and but they started coming a little more frequently. So we decided to make him a doctor's appointment. Um, one day before school, we was running late, and I was getting him and the boys to go to school. They were going to Wintergreen Primary, and I never forget, we stopped at the stop sign, and I looked to the back, and Ahmad was bleeding. That was his very first nosebleed that I experienced. So I'm sitting there saying to myself, okay, not only have he been complaining of a headache, for the last 2 weeks, now he's having a nosebleed. So I try to call, I called the doctor to try to get that appointment, a little faster than what they had gave me, because now there was something else that was going on. Well, he didn't go to school that day, but I ended up keeping him home for 2 days, and then he went back in 2 days. It was a normal day, and me and my husband were home, and I got a phone call, and it was his teacher, his first grade teacher at the time, Mrs. James. And she called me. She said, Amaya passed out. He passed out on the playground. She said it was really weird. She said for one, I had to continue to wake him up. I guess they was doing like some kind of lesson in the morning where they sit in Indian style in front of the teacher. And it was really unusual to her because he kept falling asleep during the lesson, and it didn't seem normal to her. And then by the time they went out for recess, he had passed out on the playground, and I think she said he was foaming at the mouth, and she called me and told me, hurry out here. So it's so crazy because when I got there, he was in the office with the teacher, and you couldn't even tell that he had just had a seizure. You could not tell. And when I tell you I got there so fast, like right after she called me, I put my clothes on and I was right out there. And just by the look of him, you couldn't even tell you could not tell he had a seizure. So, it was kind of weird to me because for one, I have never experienced a seizure with him. So I would ask him questions, and he would answer the questions, and he didn't appear to know what had happened. But I will never forget. His teacher told me, Casey, I don't know, I don't know what happened, but what I seen was not normal. And when you take him to the doctor, I need them to run every test possible on him because that wasn't normal. We need to see what was going on. So his teacher was really, really adamant about, that wasn't right. I didn't see it, so I didn't know what she seen. But I did as she said. I took him to the emergency room, and they did some tests on him, ran some tests on him, and they didn't find it. They didn't find anything. Like the only thing that one doctor was saying that he had a magnificent amount of protein in his urine. I never heard that before. So I'm like, okay, what does that mean? So that pretty much put the antennas up for the doctor, and he wanted to do further tests on him because of that. But just by seeing him, laying in the bed, he appeared to be fine. So that's when they ordered the CAT scan. Um, they ordered a CAT scan, and they came down and got him, and it wasn't even 15 minutes later, they was right back in the room. And I knew it was something because how they came in the room. They didn't want to talk to me in front of him. They It was actually more people that came in the room than just that doctor, and that had never happened to me before. So I knew, it was something, but I never thought in a million years it would be what it was. So yeah, the doctor came back in the room, and it was two doctors, and then it was a child life nurse, and that was honestly my first time ever meeting child life nurse. And they took him out of the room, and they told me, we found a tumor on Ahmad's brain. And Lord, that was just one of the most hard. I was in shock. I can't even, just sitting back, I was completely in shock. I never thought I would hear that. And my question to them was, where did it come from? What does that mean? Where did it come from? And I cried and I cried. And because it was just me and him up there, I had to call, my family and have them come up there and comfort me. But yeah, after that day, Amai had to go into emergency brain surgery because it was the size of a golf ball when they found it. So he had to go into emergency brain surgery the very next day. The very next day. So that was a very emotional time. And yeah, that was a very emotional time. So he went into brain surgery. The surgery was successful, but there was part of the tumor that they were not able to get because of where it was at. The doctor explained to his dad and I that it was sitting on his brainstem, and that's pretty much his functioning and everything. They were scared, if they were to, they can't cut there. So they made a decision in the operating room not to do that. But it would have been fine if it wasn't cancerous. So now it was the waiting game. Now we had to, they had to take the biopsy of what they did get off his brain, and we had to wait to see if it was cancerous. So when I say the waiting game, it was the waiting game. It was weeks. So not only were we in the hospital pretty much became my second home. We were in the hospital and we were waiting results, and we're trying to get him to get better because he have had brain surgery. So that was just an experience. Like the different morphine that they had him on made him mean. He was very cranky when he was on the different morphine. But I will say this: they expected Ahmad to not recover as fast as he did from brain surgery, and he proved them wrong. Like he recovered in a matter of weeks and was ready to go home. But by the time he was ready to go home, the results came back from the biopsy, and it was indeed cancerous. So then there was another waiting game. It was cancer, but now we had to figure out what kind of cancer, what grade of cancer, and all of that. So that was another waiting game. So just the whole waiting game of that's devastating. You already know it's cancer, but then it have to get sent off here and got to get sent off here, and then when it come back, we still not sure. You know what I'm saying? So we don't want to misdiagnose and get the right diagnosis, but that's just devastating to hear that it's cancer and then not know what it is or where it came from or anything. So it came back that Ahmad had anaplastic astrocytoma, which is something I have never heard of before, but it is a very rare grade 3 brain cancer. And he had to have 36 radiation treatments. So I was literally taking my son to radiation every morning. every morning, and he had to have a oral chemo that he was taking at night. So not only was I taking him in the morning to get his 30 to get his treatments, um, when he got home at night, he had to take the chemo. Um, when he first started taking his radiation treatments, he wasn't really experiencing any side effects except that's when his hair started to fall out, when he started to get the radiation treatments, and then he would get these really really bad burns on his head that they told me, after everything was over with, it pretty much was going to go back to normal. So it wasn't nothing that was painful to him, but it was very uncomfortable for him, being that he was a child, and um he started to pretty much lose his self-esteem, and you know um feel bad about what he was going through. He didn't like for people to see the scars on his head or his hair falling out. He didn't. That's the part of it that he didn't like. He pretty much went into a depression, and I don't think that he liked that, feel like he was like a burden, or he liked to look like the child that was always sick, because it was so many kids. Like my sister have kids, my nieces and my nephews, and then his dad have other kids. So when everyone would get together, he would always have to take the medicine and doing all this other stuff, and he hated that he looked like the sick child. So yeah, that was also heartbreaking. Just watching his joy get taken away from him, because he was a child that loved to go to school, and because of his radiation and his chemotherapy, he could no longer go to school because his immune system was down, and he could catch anything, a call, he can catch anything. So we didn't want to chance that, so he started doing homeschool. And he liked it at first, but like I said, he was a very outgoing social child. So that's the part of it that was heartbreaking, because his life just changed. His life just turned upside down, and he was sad a lot. I will say chemotherapy, the very first night that I gave him his chemotherapy, um it was horrific. It was hard. I never in a million years seen anyone throw up that much. Like, I literally gave him chemo around 9:30, and 30 minutes later that stuff kicked in, and my son would throw up every 10 minutes for the rest of the night. It was so bad to the point where, as I said earlier, he had to have radiation in the mornings. It was so bad that he would throw up at night from the chemo, that he couldn't make his radiation appointment in the morning. And I would have to call his doctor and tell them, Ma didn't, we've been up all night, he been throwing up all night. What do I need to do? And then they would tell me to come back in, and then he would have to have fluids because he would be dehydrated. So, okay, you have to skip radiation. So it was always something. But for months, anytime that we would give him his chemo, that's what we got. Every time, like, I don't care what time of the day you gave it to him, he would throw up back to back to back to back to back. And that's like the most heartbreaking thing anybody could ever see, because half the time those kids ain't even throwing up nothing, and it's just like, what in the world? So me as a mother having to watch that, I'm gonna be honest. I honestly think that the treatments, like the chemo and the radiation, and I honestly think that that's worse, and it makes the kids sicker than the actual cancer itself, because I didn't actually see, a cancer patient in my child until he started taking the medicine. And but I knew that that was something that he had to take, because with the diagnosis that he had, we don't know, how long he would have made it. So it wasn't something that I was going to chance and just not give him anything. But me and my husband did. I sat on the internet nights and nights and nights trying to find other solutions, or googling and researching things that other people use to try to help their child. And I came across a few things, organic alkaline waters, and I tried changing his diet. I tried everything. um but yeah, unfortunately, that's what we had to do, because I just hated giving him some medicine that made him sicker. I just hate it. And as a parent, that just break you down. It break you down. Like, I would give it to him and he would be so sick. And whew, like, those days and those moments was just heartbreaking. Like, if you ever have a child that have to go through childhood cancer, it is heartbreaking. Like, they go through the worst, and it's so sad. It's super sad. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, Ahmad and his treatments were very. We didn't do good with his treatments. Another thing that I don't like about his treatments is you could be given a medicine to help with this, and then that's messing up something else in his body. So now he have to take another medicine to help with this. And then when you turn around and look back, your child is literally taking 9 to 10 to 12 pills a day. You know what I'm saying? For something else like chemo. Chemo will lock up a child's bowels. Amaya had went through a situation where his bowels was completely locked up. He would have so much pain in his stomach and in his back, and we couldn't figure out, what it was. So on a doctor visit one time, we took him to the doctor, and they had to do, an X-ray of his stomach, and you can actually see the poop in his stomach. Just won't move, just locked up. So um, that was another situation that was just so heartbreaking, because the process of trying to get the bowels to move was a nightmare. Like, we had to get admitted into the hospital, and they had to administer an NG tube through his stomach, through his nose and down his stomach, and um, pump. I forgot the name of the medicine. It was a liquid medicine, clear medicine, but it was to move his bowels in his stomach. So those children go through the most. Like, one medicine um will mess up something else that they have going on in their body, and then they have to take another medicine, and it's like a domino effect. It's like a never ending story. Like, they don't get any breaks, and as a parent, having to sit there and watch it, and pretty much ain't nothing you could do but what they tell you to do: administer the medicine and be there in comfort. Then it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. um well, after all of that, Ahmad got to go on a Make-A-Wish trip. We all got to go on a Make-A-Wish trip to Disney for 6 days. And it was rushed because of his diagnosis. So we got to go to Disney, and we had an amazing time. By the grace of God, Ahmad was not sick the entire time we was there. Like, I don't know. I prayed that he would really get to enjoy that experience, because I know with some kids that didn't even make it to get to go on their wish trip. So I'm very thankful that he got to enjoy his experience. And when we came back, and that was in February the 7th of 2016. We came back from Disney, and we got great news. Um, After all of the radiation and the chemotherapy, Ahmad got clear scans, and he went into remission. So that was music to our ears. Like, he went into remission. We still had to take a preventive stage of chemo. And we went from having to take chemo every night and radiation every day to no radiation at all. And the preventive stage of chemo, which was through the IV, I would take him into PJ every 2 weeks, and he would get it for 90 minutes, and then we could go home. So that was his preventive stage. It's so crazy, because for 8 full months, Amaya went right back to normal life. Like the whole time he was in remission, he went right back to normal life. He went right back to school. There was no more homeschooling. Of course, like I said, he had to go back into PD every 2 weeks to get his chemo. But other than that, he went right back to normal life. Like, and that's another hard thing about it because it's kind of like false hope. You know, you get those clean scans, but it's only like momentarily, and it's like all the burden and all the weight and all of that is lifted off your shoulders, and then bam, you get hit again. So like I said, Ahmad went into remission for 8 months and he went back to normal life. In December of 2016, December the 16th to be exact, of 2016, we went back in the doctor because Ahmad had started back throwing up everywhere. It was to the point where he would throw up water. Like he could not hold absolutely anything down. I don't care what we gave him, it came right back up. I knew then that something was not right. I knew it just by looking at it. And before December 16th, when he actually got the diagnosis that it was back, I would take him back 2 weeks prior to that. And they kept telling me it was nothing. They didn't want to give him another MRI because they said it was exposing him to too much radiation. But he was experiencing those throwing up spells, and I would be pleading with them, something ain't right, something ain't right. And they didn't want to do the MRI, and they kept treating it with other things going on. His constipation, as I said, the chemo had locked up his bowels, so it was a whole lot of different things that they was trying to put it on, which I understood because when your bowels are locked up, if it can't come out, then it got to go somewhere else. So I said, okay, well, but it had came a point where he couldn't hold water down, like nothing. And he went right back to being fatigued and laying around and just being sick. And then he started losing a whole lot of weight. So like I said, December 16th, I demanded the MRI, and that diagnosis was even worse than the first one because at least with the first diagnosis, there were things that could have been done, like brain surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. With this diagnosis, we were told that Amaya only had 3 to 6 months to live. Not only did his cancer come back, it was way more aggressive and it had spread to other parts of his body. And before there was one tumor, and this time there were over 30 spots on his body. 30 spots on his body. So that was so devastating. Like I remember all of my family and friends being up there with me, and everyone, just coming up there to comfort. But there was nothing no one could have did at that point to make me or his dad feel better hearing that, because they actually gave him a prognosis on his life that day. And we got the talks of you can always do the more aggressive chemotherapy. Radiation was out, but the more aggressive chemotherapy to prolong life. So me and his dad had some really, really tough decisions to make that day, because we weren't hearing that, this could save his life. We was just hearing that it will prolong his life. So knowing what we went through the first time and how sick he was with chemo and radiation, that was something that we didn't want to put our child back through. So we had some really, really tough decisions to make. And my heart goes out to any parents that ever have to make those decisions. But I will say this, every decision that we made was for the best for Ahmad. We always thought about Ahmad's well-being and how Ahmad felt and how it would affect him, because we weren't the ones that was actually going through it. He was. So a lot of the decisions that we made was for him. When we got that news with the prognosis, and they gave him 36 months to live. We talked with Ahmad's doctors, and let me just start off by saying Ahmad doctor, his name was Dr. Fu, and we love Dr. Fu. Dr. Fu had the best bedside manners, and I feel as if Dr. Fu did, he treated Ahmad like his child. You get some doctors and some nurses that just look at it like a job. You know what I'm saying? They have so many kids and so many patients that is sick, so they just look at it like a job. During this process, we have ran into people that didn't take it serious, and they just looked at my child like another statistic. But Dr. Fu was heaven sent. He did everything that he could possibly do for Ahmad. And I thank him for that, him and his team. um as I was saying, yeah, I say that to say this. Dr. Fu talked to Ahmad's dad about getting a second opinion. So we've had second and third opinions. After we got the 36-month prognosis and pretty much saying that there was nothing else they could do for him, then we reached out to other organizations, try to get second opinions and third opinions. I looked into St. Jude's, and because they wasn't doing the actual study on the actual cancer that Ahmad had, which was the anaplastic astrocytoma, he wasn't able to go there. We also went to Duke, Chapel Hill, and that experience was a nightmare. You see, when Ahmad was in Greenville around the doctors that he knew and that had grown to love him, they weren't as blunt as doctors that didn't know him. So when we got this second opinion in Duke, and that lady just pretty much came out and told me and my husband, and my mom was there and my cousin was there, this child is going to die. That was her exact words. This child is going to die. And then she went to tell me ways that he may possibly die. Like, some of them that's how she was treating it. Some of them, they may die in their sleep, or some of them wait to this and wait to that. So I knew then, she was just pretty much, she see this too much. So that was a job to her, and same thing we heard from his doctors, we can always start a more aggressive chemotherapy, but it is not going to save his life. It's just going to prolong his life. That's it. So then the lady proceeds to ask me and my husband, well, is there anything that you guys want to have him stick around for? And I said, what? And she was like, well, is there anything you want him to stick around for? And at the time, my husband and I was getting married in September. And I told him, well, we getting married in September. And she went out here, stopped me in my church. Oh, no, that's too long. That's too long. That's not going to work. No, this child's going to die. So people don't know that, but we had second, third opinions. Nobody's that, okay, this medicine is going to cure your child. This is going to save his life. No, we constantly heard there's nothing else we can do. There's no surgery, nothing that can be had right now, nothing. So to me and his dad, it's like, okay, if we know this, why give him this medicine, this stronger chemo that's going to make him sicker, than what he was the first time, if he's not going to live? So we made a decision that we wanted his last days to be, we wanted him to be comfortable. We wanted less pain as possible. So I talked with his doctor, as long as my child is not in pain, because I know he has to be experiencing pain. If you're saying there's 30 spots here and there all over his body, all down his spine, losing so much weight. He couldn't eat anything. It would come right back up in pain. So if you can, let us know that he won't be in no pain, like around the clock pain medicines, and then that's all I'm about, comfort, because I'm not going to put him through that again if it's not going to save his life, you know. And that's why we made a decision that we made. So on that day, we decided to do hospice care. And people don't know this, but he wasn't in a he wasn't in a people think that when you say hospice care, that your child is in a facility, or you have around the clock care for your child every single day, and that is not the case. um Hospice, how Amaz was set up, she would come in 2, maybe 3 times out the week to check for vital signs and make sure his vitals was still okay, make sure he was eating good. And he got a really, really good hospice nurse. So she would come and bring him anything he wanted to eat, Chick-fil-A, stuff like that. She had a really good relationship with him. But other than that, from that day on, I had to quit my job, and my husband had to work 2 jobs, and I stay home and I took care of my child. You know, I seen every decline. I seen every time he failed when he was trying to be stubborn because he wanted to do it, do it himself. And he could not understand, like, okay, just 3 weeks ago I was walking. Why I can't walk? Why am I falling down? Or why am I? He had so many complications. It's crazy. Like, he went from walking to not being able to walk. Um, he started having something secretions in his mouth where I had to suck it out. He lost control of his bowels, and I had to put him on the pens and diapers. Like, a child really goes back to their baby stage as they're fighting cancer. He went from being able to feed himself to you have to sit right there and feed him. You know what I'm saying? Some days was better than others. Some days he would have seizures. Some days he wouldn't eat anything or couldn't hold anything down. And then some days he would eat everything. So I definitely say anybody that's going through that with their child, whenever they're hungry, feed them, because there are definitely going to be times where they're not going to be able to eat anything. So I would definitely say that. But yeah, it was just it is very, very heartbreaking. And I'm a mother that was there the whole time. um I just had to put my big girl panties on and do what I had to do for my child. There were so many times where I was angry, and mad at the Lord, and I would just sit and I would pray and I would cry out to the Lord because I did not know, I didn't know, I didn't know what to do. Um, I couldn't help him. I didn't know what to do to help him, but I was just there. So I was there. And I have comfort in knowing, mommy was there. Mommy was doing everything that she could to help me. But unfortunately, when your child is fighting that battle, that's something that you cannot do. You can't do anything. It's nothing that you can do but be there. So to anyone that is going through that with their child, be there. Y'all just need to be there and, holding their hand and rubbing their head. I found myself in the hospital rubbing his head at night and singing to him and just trying to make him, just comfort him. I was just trying to comfort him. I did not want my child in any type of pain. But I got to meet his favorite basketball player, Stephen Curry, and on January 25th of 2017. He got to meet Steph Curry. And people think that Make-A-Wish set that up, but it was actually his teachers. My teachers was amazing. The school that Ahmad went to, his little brothers also went to. And when I tell you, those people treated my family just like family. They literally did. Like, they used to have fundraisers. They used to stop by when he got a 3 to 6 months prognosis. They used to stop by, make it their business to stop by um, twice a week and bring him whatever it was he needed. They did all types of stuff. They got a special tribute video from all kinds of football players and basketball players and cheerleaders and all of that that would give him send him make a well wishes. And like I said, they set up the trip with him going to see Steph Curry. That was just amazing. Like they knew that I had so much on my plate and they was trying to do everything to lighten my load. um they would get together and do like meal plans, and all the teachers at the school would pick a day where they bring our family dinner for that night. They would take my other kids out to give me and my husband a break or send us on date nights like they did. Those teachers was amazing. And it's really some good people in this world because they did not have to do everything that they did for my family when I was going through. So I can truly say the support was really real. And when you're going through a situation like that, you have to have that support because I had my days. Trust me, I had my days, and I didn't really like to talk about it to people that never experienced it. You know, you get some people that just want to talk, that just want to be nosy or be in your business. So if you never really experienced it or can feel what I was going through, I didn't really open up a lot about it. You know, it's select a few that I really talked to about what I was going through. Um, my mother was my rock in that situation. She used to always tell me and my husband, look, I never been through this situation before. I don't know what to say, but just know whatever decision y'all make, I got y'all back. You know, she was just that support and just there. And she didn't have the answers because she had never experienced it, but she was right there for us. My aunt, when Ahmad got really, really sick, he was started to become wheelchair bound. And we also had our oxygen tank, all types of stuff. My aunt is a nurse. So being that I was going through so much during the week, and I was taking care of him all throughout the week, my aunt would step in on weekends and give him and his dad and I a break, and look after him for us on some weekends. And thank God for her profession because she had it down pat. She used to giving patients medicine and doing this and doing that. So I thank God for my aunt too because she really stepped in and gave me a mental break because people don't understand when you watching your child fight something like that every day, you could lose it. Just by watching it, you could lose it. And I had to have mental breaks because so many times I broke down and it's really, really hard and really, really tough. So I thank God for my support system because they were amazing. They were awesome. Um, Let me see. Um, in April, when Amai got really, really bad off, which was 3 weeks before he passed away, the hospice nurse had asked us did we want to do another trip, and it was called a butterfly trip. So I seen what my child was going through on a day-to-day basis, and I in my heart I knew that his body wasn't ready for another trip, but I just needed that extra time with him, and I just wanted to make more memories with him, so I tried to chance it. But I know 2 days before getting the trip together, the hospice nurse came outside of our house and was talking to his dad and I, and she told us, Casey, I don't really know because I don't want you to go to, it was in Charlotte. It was called Great Wolf Lodge. I don't want you guys to go to Charlotte and come back one less child. That's what she told us. But I wasn't trying to hear that. I wasn't trying to hear it. And I wanted to try it anyway. Well, the night before we went on the trip, Ahmad lost his ability to swallow. So now all of the pills that I had to give him on a day-to-day basis, he could not swallow them. He could not get them down. So the night before, I had to call his daughter and get everything switched over to liquids so he can get it, so he can get it down. But we tried to go on a trip anyway, and when we got on the trip, now till this day, my kids um hate Great Wolf Lodge. I hope that they change their mind about Great Wolf Lodge, because it wasn't the place but it's so many bad memories at Great Wolf Lodge. From the time that we got to Great Wolf Lodge, my son took a turn for the worse. Um, he started to bleed really bad. He started to bleed out his nose and out his mouth. But it was weird because it was brown. It was brown. It was like a dark brown. But when I tell you, it was just flowing. It was just flowing out like a faucet. Um, my mom went on a Great Wolf Lodge trip with his dad and I, and while we was in the room with him trying to get him together, and the hospice nurse had set up where if we had any issues that we could call the hospice nurse in Charlotte, and they would come over and check him out because of where he was at with his sickness. So my mom tried to get the kids to have some type of fun while we was dealing with that, but it didn't work out. From the time we got there, he bled and he bled and he threw up and he threw up. We called the hospice nurse, and she ended up coming over to Great Wolf Lodge and evaluating him. And after she left, it wasn't even 30 minutes later, he started seizing. He started having a seizure. So his dad and I jumped in the car and tried to find the nearest hospital. And we literally pulled out of Great Wolf Lodge onto the side street and had to stop again because it started seizing again. He just started seizing. So his dad jumped out of the car and administered the medicine that you put into their rectum. And he stopped it because I went into complete panic mode because I could not stop him. I just couldn't stop him from having seizures and just bleeding there. He was bleeding out his nose. We couldn't stop it. So we ended up having to call the emergency, the ambulance. So the ambulance came, and I rode on the ambulance with him. And my husband and my mom and the kids, they end up riding behind us in the car. So we literally got to Great Wolf Lodge that day and had to leave that day. Like the kids' trip was just that's where he took his worst turn. I cannot remember the actual name. I don't want to say the wrong name for that hospital because I had the worst experience ever in that hospital. So I don't want to say the wrong name. But back to where I was saying, you're going to get some doctors and some nurses that do all they can for your child. And you're going to get some that's just there to get a paycheck. And that's just what it is. And just look at your child like a statistic. And unfortunately, that hospital in Charlotte that night, we got the worst experience ever. I might end up having 5 to 6 seizures that night alone, like back to back, which his doctor had told me early on that, when we get time, he would start having seizures that I couldn't, that his medicines and like his Keppra, his seizure medicine and stuff, that wasn't going to help it anymore. That's how you know it was getting closer. So we experienced that on our family trip. That's what we experienced. And the hospital that we went to, it was a nightmare. The doctor, I guess, pulling up a Myers chart and seeing his background and seeing that he was a cancer patient, and just, I don't know how they do it, but just looking into his files and stuff, and he's seen, okay, he pretty much don't have long to live. He didn't want to do anything for him. He did not want to do anything for him. We was in triage all night, pretty much just sitting there by ourselves. We had a nurse that was very lazy and wasn't trying to do anything. Amaya had 2 seizures on her watch, and she took her time trying to get in there to help him doing what he needed to do. And that was very frustrating because tensions were very high, and yeah, that just wasn't the time for that. We were told that um we weren't going to be able to get back to Greenville where we was from, unless we had a certain amount. I think it was like a certain amount of money to be able to get flown back. I think she told me $9,000 to get airlifted back. So they wasn't even trying to airlift us back, because at that point I wanted my child out of that facility because he wasn't getting the proper care. I wanted him back where around his doctors, who loved him and cherished his life regardless of what was going on with him. So that hospital was a nightmare. I pretty much had to coach my son in having to, because he got so tired at night. He was breathing so hard. So I couldn't go to sleep. I pretty much was up all night coaching him into continuing to breathe. You know, he wasn't, she didn't come in there and check on him. She didn't come in there and do anything, so I'm trying to coach him into breathe. And um it was just a mess trying to help him when he was having his seizures, and it was just a mess. And then we couldn't get airlifted back. And early on in the beginning, me and his dad had made a decision not to resuscitate. And we made the decisions not to put him on any type of breathing machines or any ventilators or anything like that, because when they sat and they talked to us about the risks of it all, it just seemed worse than it just seemed worse. Like anything could happen when they trying to do those breathing machines on your child. Like they could be doing CPR and break their ribs. They could puncture something going down with the ventilator or the breathing tube and stuff. So we didn't want to do that to him. We didn't want him to be uncomfortable like that. So we made decisions not to do that. Well, unfortunately, in Charlotte, um, after that night, the next morning, I will say the morning shift, you know how in the doctors you will have like a night shift and a morning shift and they switch over. I will say the morning shift was like night and day. They were like night and day. I guess we got on the lazy shift, the night shift that didn't want to do anything but sit there and milk their clock. But the morning shift, nurse came in and she switched over probably about 7:30 that morning. And she came in and she asked, have he been changed? And I'll never forget, she rolled him over on his back and she patted his back, and so much blood and feces came out of his mouth. She explained to me that being that because the nurse didn't do her job the night before, Ahmad pretty much was breathing so hard and trying to fight so hard because he was drowning in his own blood and feces. But the nurse before wasn't even trying to even do anything for him. So that's why he was, having a struggle. So after she did that, there was a sign of relief and he started feeling a little better. So me and my husband, we made our complaints to the hospital about the horrible situation that we had with them. We made our complaints, and they told us, we'll make it better. We'll get you airlifted back, and we'll do this and we'll do that. And I think they were supposed to talk with the doctor and the nurse from that night. I don't know. I never looked back into it to see if anything happened because my main focus was my child. But um, they did come in and say that we could get airlifted, but the only reason we could get airlifted was if he was on a ventilator. They did not think that he would survive up in the air that high, because of where he was at. So that was like that was hard because, like I said, we made a decision not to do that. So we was in a situation where we had to do it, or he couldn't get back home to his doctors. He was just gonna pass away in Charlotte, and that is like 4 hours away from home. So he wasn't gonna be around family, friends. So we had to suck it up and put him on a ventilator and get airlifted back to Greenville. When we got airlifted back to Greenville, the doctors did their evaluation and they came to me and they told me that he had no brain activity. They actually told me that day that he was gone. You know, they told me he was gone, and um I didn't want to accept that. So I would call all the family members and everyone, and being that I was the only one that could ride on the plane back with him, as I told you, we was on a family trip, so my husband and my mom had to drive back 4 hours. So I didn't want to take him off of the machine until his dad got there. So even though they told me that he didn't have any brain activity, I still wanted everybody to come in and see him and stuff. So they run the kids up there, his sister and his brothers, and they sat beside the hospital bed, and he started to squeeze their hand. He started to squeeze their hand, and he started to tears had started to roll. So I knew, I said, I went to the doctor and I said, he is not gone. He's not gone. When my daughter sat beside him and was talking to, they was talking to him and they was crying, they was having their moment. He started to squeeze their hand and his eyes started to tear up. So I told him he's not gone. So then they told me, Casey, we don't have him on anything. We don't have him on no type of medicine, no pain medicine, nothing. We're trying to see what he's doing on his own. So as I said before, I'm all about pain free. So if you're telling me you don't have him on anything and he's just on that ventilator, he's feeling all that. He's in pain. So now that my child can't talk, I have to be his voice and talk for him. So y'all gotta take him off that. I wanted him off that. I didn't care who didn't come up there and see him at first. I needed him off that. I watched him fight so hard. I was at peace with, if they took him off and he let go, it was because he was really tired, you know, and that was just going to be that. But I was not just going to sit there and just let him be uncomfortable like that, because he was crying. I knew he was uncomfortable. It was just a mother's. I just knew he was uncomfortable. I knew he was in pain, and I just wanted to do what I needed to do for him. So, me and my husband actually had a little argument about it, because Ahmad was a daddy's boy. So he didn't accept a lot of things at first. Like, I was a lot stronger than him in that situation. And so I had to talk to him and I had to let him know, but he didn't take that really good. So but unfortunately, we ended up taking him off the machine. And believe it or not, after they told me that Ahmad had no brain activity and he was gone, after they took him off that machine, Ahmad, it was like a sign of relief. It was a sign of relief. And he proved all the doctors and everybody wrong that day. He literally lived 3 weeks after that. 3 weeks. But in those 3 weeks, we never went back home. So if you go back to when I had a conversation with the hospice nurse and she said, I don't want you to go and then you come back one less child. She was right in so many ways, because we never went back home. But we did bring him back. The last 3 weeks of Ahmad's life, he went right back into baby mode, like listening to your voice and just smiling. I never heard my child voice again. Like, never. The very last time I heard his voice was in that hospital in Charlotte. Remember when I tell you I was coaching him to continue to breathe, and he made a noise and said, I'm tired. He said, I'm tired, but you can hear what he said. That's the last time I heard my son's voice. So the last 3 weeks of his life, I didn't hear his voice again. He just would listen to, went right back into baby mode and would follow people's voices and smile. And, I'll be sitting up there singing to him and feeding him ice cream. It was really weird, though, because the last 3 weeks, he wasn't eating anything. I could not understand how he was still living and wasn't eating. So that part of it was hard for me too, because I would go to the doctor like, well, he can't eat nothing, he's not eating nothing. And they was trying to tell me, Casey, that part of his brain now that's gone, but I guess that was a part of me not wanting to accept it too, because how can you not eat and survive? So that was just a part of me being in denial what was really about to happen. So I would still be selfish and sit up there and try to feed him ice cream anyway and let it, slide down his throat. But I just made sure the last 3 weeks of his life, he was just surrounded by love and everybody, family, friends, teachers. We was all up there, they would come in um, day by day and just sit and talk with them and rub his hair and, we just sit up there. So that's kind of how it was. um, the day that Ahmad passed away was really, really, it was really hard. So the night before Ahmad passed away, I started hearing a gurgle sound. I would lay in the bed with him in the hospital. I would get right up under him and lay in the bed with him. And I started hearing this gurgle sound. And it sounds like someone is trying to catch their breath. So I remember being all emotional and calling the nurse in and the doctor in, and they knew what it was. So what the doctor did for me that night that was on call, she just sat in there with me. She just comforted me. She knew it was really not too much she could tell me because she knew what was going on. But because it was my first time hearing that sound, I was a mess. So she just sat in the room with me all night and just pretty much just let me cry and let me vent. And I just laid in the bed with him all night and I held him. The next morning they came in to do their evaluations at about 7:30. And when they came in to do their evaluations, he started to bleed again from his nose. And it was just like a running faucet. Like I never seen that in my life. And there's so many different situations that I've been through when I went through this childhood cancer for my son that is still in my mind. I could just be sitting back and thinking, and it's so many memories in my mind. I seen so much watching him go through it. But yeah, I seen they came in and he started to bleed from his nose again. Um they After they did whatever they did to him, the doctor came out and told me, Casey, it's time for you to call the funeral home. He was telling me it was time for me to make funeral arrangements. That was the morning of. He told me it was time for me to make a funeral arrangement. Who have you called and who? That was the conversation I had the morning of, and I was just so in denial because of the night that I had with him. Crying and laying in the bed with him all night because I heard that gurgle sound. I had already told myself that morning when I woke up, we're not gonna have any visitors because I just need a break. I was all over the place. But he told me that I needed to go ahead and make funeral arrangements and call the people, who was gonna come and get him when he passed. So I felt like, you know, he, maybe I need to let these people come and see him because I don't know. He didn't go into detail when or not, but just the thought of him having that conversation with me, I said, okay, well, we're gonna have some visitors. I never forget after having that conversation with him, I had to step away. His first grade teacher that I was telling you about before, she was up there with me that morning. And I told her, can I just walk away for a second and just, get myself together? I have to walk out of the hospital and just get some fresh air and I got to collect what I just heard. So she sat in there with him. I remember walking out to the front of the hospital lobby and just crying. I just cried and I just cried and I just had a real moment out there right in front of the hospital, right by myself. And one of the doctors that was with his doctor that came in to evaluate him that morning, she was new. And that was my very first time meeting her. She just so by happened to walk out. And I just asked her, I was so emotional. And I asked her, look, can you please tell me, what's going on? I kind of think that his doctor's kind of trying to spare my feelings, but I need to know what is going on. He told me to make funeral arrangements. What do you think? Like, I need a time, when? she told me, well, my body is tired and I don't think it'll be another 48 hours. That's what she told me. So, I'm sorry. Whew, I told myself I wasn't gonna cry. She told me, it'll be another 48 hours. So, I remember calling everybody up there and, letting everybody say, their final goodbyes. And throughout that day, I would watch his monitors and his numbers. I would watch his monitors and his numbers dropping. Yeah, I would watch them dropping all throughout the day. While the different family members came in and, said their final goodbyes. I remember telling my husband's dad to bring his brothers and sisters back up there so they, we could tell them, what was going on. Ahmad, Talon, Ashton, and Alea, they were inseparable. My kids were inseparable. And their bond was really like no other. And that was one of the hardest things that me and my husband had to do, was to tell them, their brother was going to be with the Lord. And, he had to go to heaven. I remember having that conversation with them and them being so heartbroken. We were sitting in the lobby of the hospital and they were so heartbroken and they didn't take it well at all. But me and my husband had to be strong for them. That's another thing. When you have kids, other kids, the hardest thing you have to do is be strong when you don't have all the answers yourself. You hurting just as much as they are. But because you have to be strong for your kids, you can't show that. So that's really, really hard. Like, that's really hard. But Ahmad ended up passing away on May 16th, 2017. He passed away at 11:26 p.m. Everybody, it's so crazy because everybody ended up leaving probably around 10 something that night. And he was laying there and he started to have pauses in his breathing. So I would look over there at him because I was sitting beside the hospital bed and I look over there at him like, that don't sound right. And his dad had just walked out in the lobby to go and see one of his cousins. So I remember getting on the phone and calling him and saying, his breathing changing. You might need to get back in here because you may miss his last breath. So he came running in there, not even 10 seconds later, he came running in there. And me and him sat beside the hospital bed and we talked to him. And we told him, we were really, really proud of him. We love him. We're going to miss him. And we told him that it would be okay. I realized that Ahmad fought so hard because he was fighting for us. Those kids fight really hard for us. If they don't think that you're gonna be okay without them, then they're gonna push you to the limit. And that's what he did. Ahmad was up there. You couldn't even realize, recognize him or anything. He had lost all the color in his skin. He had bed sores from being out there for 3 weeks, just laying in the bed, couldn't move. His face was blowed up from the fluid, from the medicine that they were giving him, and he just was not recognizable at all. But I knew that he was fighting really hard for us. So I had to have that conversation with his dad. Like, you have to tell your son that you're going to be okay, or he's not going. You have to tell him that you're proud of him. And he tired. I knew he was tired. I seen it. Like I said, I took care of him, so I seen every decline. I seen the times that people didn't see. I seen when he fell. I seen all the pain that he went through. I seen when he couldn't eat. I seen so much. So I knew how tired he was. So I accepted long before he did. So we sat down beside his hospital bed and we told him all of that. And we played One Call Away. When we went to Make-A-Wish trip to Disney World, at Give Kids the World, there was an event called American. It was like a spin on American Idol, and all the Make-A-Wish kids got to fulfill their dreams and have a talent show. Because so many of those kids were so sick. So I thought that was really, really neat that they got those kids to do those talent shows and fulfill those dreams, the ones that wanted to be singers when they grew up, or dancers or whatever. So we got to see all the sick kids perform. And there was one little girl up there that was fighting cancer, and she sung Charlie Puth's songs One Call Away. And from then on, Ahmad loved that song. He used to sing it all the time. That became his favorite song. So while he was going out, me and his dad played that song while we talked. And he passed away at 11:26 p.m. It was not like, I never thought it would be like that, because watching movies and stuff, you see someone flatline, or you see the monitor going beep or whatever, but everything cut completely off when Ahmad passed away. Everything went completely black, and everything cut completely off. And I will never forget it. That's the memory that I would definitely cherish for a lifetime. That's something that I still see when I close my eyes sometimes. That's something I still see in my dreams. But to know my child is not here suffering anymore, I find peace and comfort in that, because I watch him go through the unthinkable. I watch him go through something that no child should ever have to go through. I watch him go through something that no mother or father should ever have to watch their child go through. So I definitely find peace and comfort in knowing he is pain-free and he is not suffering anymore. Grieving Ahmad has been a journey. I have my days. I have my night. I have my days. I have my nights. Some days I'm fine, like perfectly fine, and then some days I'm a mess. I don't care how long it is. I don't care if you lost your child 10 years ago. I don't care. It's a pain that you will never get over. You will never get over it. That's the ache in your heart that no one can mend. That's a bond that had been broken forever with my children. And watching my kids grieve is even harder, because I want to be, as a parent, you want to be that comfort for your child. My kids have a hard time. They have their days, they have their nights. And it's hard to watch that. My son Tylen and Ahmad was close, like they were the closest. And in my book, Kevin Need the Hero, I have a chapter called Two Peas in a Pod, and I talk about Ahmad and Tyler relationship. And Tyler has a really hard time with it. In the beginning, my husband and I didn't get my kids we didn't get counseling because, we didn't think we needed it. But as time goes by and personalities change and school affecting school and all of that different stuff change, like as you actually see how they're grieving, then I realize, there's something that I probably need to look into. My son Tyler has anger issues because of it. He's really isolated because of it. It's like my kids are not, they're happy, but I can't even explain it. Like they'll never be as happy as they were. That's why we spoiled them rotten, because something so precious was taken from them and we can't fix it. And that alone is hard as a mother and father. We can't fix it. Like, I wish I could fix it. I wish I could, but there's nothing I can really say to make them feel better, because I feel that same way. I feel that same way, but I just try to remain strong for my kids. I try to keep that superwoman cape on my back. I do my most crying in my shower, and then I jump out like ain't nothing wrong with me. Or I just get missing and they don't even know I done rode out there to the cemetery and I done had my moment with my child, and then I come right back and they can't even tell. I try not to get too in my feelings around them because they having such a hard time with it, But yeah, I say to anybody that's going through that, my heart goes out to anybody that's going through that. My heart goes out to anybody that's going through that, because it's tough and it's hard, and I can't say I completely isolated myself. Completely isolated myself from the world. Like, I was lost. I did not know what to do. Like, I had so much pain that I did not know what to do with it. So I found healing in writing. I found healing in writing. When I actually wrote my son's story and then got all my feelings and all my pain out of me that I had bottled up inside of me, that I feel like I can't talk to anybody about, because they don't understand. If you never lost a child, you will never understand that pain. Like, never. So I just had to get it out. So when I started writing, I literally scared myself because I could not stop writing. But I was able to tell my son everything I ever wanted to tell him. I was able to put his story out there and get his story heard, because these children go through the most with this cancer. And if don't nobody step up and talk about it and try to make a change for them, then it'll just always be underrated. It will just always be, it won't be talked about. Like, it's not fair to these kids that you go into these stores and you want to support cancer, that everything is pink. That's not fair to those kids, because it's so many different cancers out here. It's so many different cancers. It's so many different colors. These kids are getting cancer everywhere. Anywhere you can think of on your body, these poor kids are getting it. And if you do your research, it seems like the kids are getting it more than adults. This ain't nothing that was, hereditary in my family, or it's nothing like that. I need people to know that just like Ahmad was a healthy child, you're not exempt from childhood cancer. Until we find out what is going on and make a difference and be these kids' voices, then it's just gonna continue to be the domino effect. And that's why I'm starting to think that why my past, I don't like to say it, like, sometimes when you go through something, you don't understand it. You don't understand it. But I got this crazy theory that the Lord handpicked his strongest soldiers to fight the battles. And we may not know that we were strong, you know what I'm saying? But he knows that we're strong. And he knows that the parents that he chose to have to go through such a journey are going to stand up for their child and do what needs to be done. And I really feel like that's what I'm here for. I feel like this. I eat, sleep, and breathe childhood cancer now. And to believe it or not, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know nothing about it. But because I, was chosen to go on this journey with my son, I'm doing everything in my power to bring awareness to childhood cancer because it is really real. It's bigger than you watching these commercials and these kids are pushing these, day and night. Everybody got a bald head. The kids are pushing the things down the hall with smiles on their faces and they're saying donate, donate. I need you guys to know what you're donating to, because as long as cancer been a research, a cure should be found way before now. Childhood cancer is harsh, and what you guys see on TV is not reality. You will never know reality until that mother or that father step up and talk about their child's story. And I'm doing everything in my power to bring awareness to it. If you guys just go to the hospital and go on the cancer floor, that would change your life. Like, these kids literally have a whole floor, and door to door to door, there's another child fighting. You may go in there, this one sick. You may go in there, this one. It's just heartbreaking. And awareness needs to be brought. That's how I feel about it. So I wrote my story, Heaven Needed a Hero. It's the Macabre story. And I gave it to y'all real. I gave it to y'all raw. I did not sugarcoat anything. My feelings was my feelings. If I wanted to scream and cry and talk to the Lord, that's what I did. If I wanted to curse, that's what I did, because it's real. I did not sugarcoat anything. And I'm hoping and praying that my story touch on hearts all over the world. I'm hoping it bring awareness. I hope that these people wake up and find a cure. And I hope to strengthen another grieving mother, grieving father, because my heart goes out to anybody that lost their kids, because that's just unbearable. That's an unbearable pain that no one will ever get over. Like, you will have your days, you will be okay, but you will never get over it. You will never get over it, because a piece of you is in heaven. I hope to honor my son's name and leave an everlasting legacy for him and make a change for the next child fighting cancer. And I just feel like in my heart, that's what I was supposed to do. That's just how I feel. It's becoming clearer to me now why I was put through so much. But these kids are getting diagnosed with cancer every single day. And it's just not fair. It's not fair. You can get on Instagram and you can go to these cancer advocates pages and it will change your life. It's child after child after child after child. And some of them have similar stories. It's always they went into remission, then it came back stronger, and then they passed away. And we have to stand up for these kids and be their voices. So that is most definitely why I'm doing what I'm doing. And, I hope my story touch on hearts all over.
Well, Casey, thank you so much for sharing Ahmad's story. You know, you're absolutely right. People need to see the raw and the reality of what childhood cancer is, and not that these commercials that they show on TV.
Right.
Um, it's something that no parent should ever go through, as you were mentioning. Just having to choose between chemo that hasn't advanced in the last 30
Right.
years, to just prolong life,
Right.
knowing what can happen, and knowing what the result is of what's going to happen. You should never have to choose whether or not to do a medication, or not do a medication. And you're absolutely right. You touched earlier in your story, a lot of these chemos and radiation are actually harming a lot more than they're helping. and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that we don't have that funding that we have to get the proper research to see what is effective more for these children, as opposed to, like I was mentioning, uh, you know 30-year-old chemo that hasn't advanced anything.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think what you're doing, and the reality that you're bringing for what childhood cancer is. And I'm like I eat, breathe, and everything childhood cancer now, because again, and you touched on something very important. A lot of the times we don't understand, but is it really our job to understand, or is it our job just to trust God, and
Hmm.
God's perfect plan and God's perfect timing? I feel like you too. If we went through this, like you said, it's because God has a purpose with us, and we are fulfilling that purpose, and being a voice for these children, as we need to be a voice. So you talked about the Heaven Needed a Hero book, and it's a story that you wrote, and you give it to as raw and real as it is. Where can our viewers find this book? Where can they get a copy of it?
Heaven Needed a Hero is available on Amazon. It's available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited um, edition. So, yep, it's available on Amazon. It's called Heaven Needed a Hero by Casey Langley.
Okay, and you were also telling me that the cover changed, because I believe you're with a new publishing company, but it's still going to be somewhat similar to what you have right now. Do you mind showing us the cover again?
Uh-huh. This was the first cover,
Hmm.
and I only have this one because I don't have a copy of the new cover on hand. But it's the same as that picture. He's gonna be sitting on a cloud with his hand on his face, but it's just a darker blue. I don't think this one right here isn't even available on the website anymore, so you shouldn't get mixed up in what it is. So yes, it's definitely a different cover than what I'm showing, but it's as long as you put in Heaven Needed a Hero by Casey Langley, it'll pop right up.
That'll be awesome, and I'll go ahead and be sharing that link along also here for all the viewers that want to get your copy, your hands on a copy. So, Casey, I just want to I have two other questions right before we finish this interview. I usually ask this of parents. What advice would you give other parents that are going through the same situation that both you and I are going, being bereaved parents? And what advice would you give those parents with perfectly healthy children?
The advice I would give the parents that are going through is to stay strong, trust in the Lord, because He has a plan for all of us that is bigger than we could even understand or imagine. Continue to stay by your child's side. Be there every step of the way, no matter what they're going through. Be there, and do things to honor your child. Do things to be a voice for your child, from foundations to anything, any little thing to honor that child's fight. That's what I say. Do honor your child fight. Be there every step of the way, and trust in the Lord. And to the parents that has healthy kids, um, never downgrade anything. If your child has a fever, take your child to the doctor. If your child have a speck in his eye, take your child to the doctor. Um, Childhood cancer is real, and just like my child was normal and running around and very healthy, and it hit him, you could easily be me. Your child could easily be him. Um, Take your child to the doctor for everything because there's all kinds of cancers. There's all different types of names, all different colors. Take your child to the doctor for everything. A simple fever could be cancer. So never think that it can't be you, because until we find out what is going on and make a difference for these kids, then it can't be you. So I would definitely say that to uh, those parents that have healthy kids. Um, Pay attention, pay attention, because it could easily be something that you do not want to hear. So that's what I would tell them.
Thank you, Casey. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you don't have to uh, have a child with cancer for you to be an advocate for your children and be a voice for them.
Right,
We both, Casey and I, and all these other parents that are part of this family, we were not cancer parents until we were told your child has cancer. At that point,
right,
we became cancer parents. Prior to that, 10 minutes before that, we were not, and we
right.
thought we had perfectly healthy children. So no one is exempt for that. So, and I know, Casey, you were also saying that you're thinking of creating a nonprofit organization. So when you do and you have everything ready, please count on myself and the Gold Corner so we can partner it up and start, helping you out and be a voice. So thank you so much, Casey. Please, family, I will be tagging her when I do any uploading of these videos and anything like that. If you have a chance to go to Amazon and check out the story, the book that she wrote about her son Ahmad, please do so and help spread childhood cancer awareness. Family, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us this week for this week's episode. Thank you all. I mean, whenever I upload these stories, it's a blessing and it helps because it talking about our children works as healing for us as well. By doing so, this is who we are. We are a broken family, but we're broken together. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Sunday to listen to these amazing stories. As I mentioned earlier in the video, if you still haven't done so, just click on the little gold ribbon here in the corner of the video, and that'll subscribe you to your challenge, to our channel. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Remember to live each day to its fullest because tomorrow's not promised. And just hold on a little while longer because we're almost home. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.